Hey, everybody, welcome to the John DeVito Show. And tonight, I'm going to talk about something that I think a lot of us think about. And the title of this show is going to be pretty self explanatory 81 million votes, my ass. Do you believe it? Do you honestly, in your heart of hearts, believe that Joe Biden got the most votes in presidential history? Do you believe he got more than Trump? Do you believe he got more than Obama, more than Clinton, more than Bush, more than any president in the history of our great country? Joe Biden did not campaign. He sat in his basement. When he did campaign, he had almost no one in attendance. And we are supposed to believe that this man, who barely has 25 million Twitter followers, received 81 million votes in the presidential election. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. Maybe I've been brainwashed. But I believe with everything in my soul that there was cheating in the last election. There's no way that Biden got 81 million votes. They shut down the voting at 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll get into that in a second. Why did they shut it down? We'll talk about that. Okay? But you look at the election, how can you say that this person, who in my opinion has done an absolutely horrendous job running our country over the last 3 years, how can anyone honestly believe that this decrepit old man received 81 million votes? Now, I actually feel bad for Biden. I really do. I can't imagine how any of his loved ones can let him continue to pose as our president when he clearly has cognitive difficulties and he is struggling as a person. The man's in his 80s. He's not healthy. He is not of sound mind. And I don't know how the people around him, the people that are supposed to love him, can continue to allow him to act in this charade. Because that's what it is. It's a charade. Joe Biden is not a real president. Joe Biden was put into this role. He was placed into this role because our overlords did not want Donald Trump as president. It's as simple as that. Now, I've got a few lists that I'm going to go down. One, in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about what the votes looked like at 3 a.m. on election night in the key battleground states. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about presidents and the history of voting with presidents. Now, before you call me on this, I get it. There are more people in the country now than there were when Abraham Lincoln was elected. So you can't compare the vote totals. I get that. But we are going to run down recent history and the number of votes that each president got in their election to win. And then we're going to talk about Joe Biden. Okay? So let's go. I'm going to go back a little ways just for the heck of it so we can enjoy it. And I realize that some of these numbers will not be an apples to apples comparison because the populations in the country were different at that time. Let's go back, if we can, to as far as Ronald Reagan in 1980. Now, Biden received 81 million votes, right? Reagan is considered to be one of the best presidents in the history of our country. I loved him. I remember him. He was charismatic, just like Bill Clinton was charismatic. But let's talk about how many votes he got. And you know what? I'm even going to take it a step before that. I'm going to go to Jimmy Carter, since we just saw everything about his wife, Rosalind Carter, passing away. And Jimmy Carter was there, 99 years old. Even though Jimmy Carter was a Democrat, I never felt he was a good president. He was a good man. And I think he cared about the country. I think he did a lot of good things after he was done being president. Was he considered a good president? I would say most people would say no. But he's done a lot of good things since his presidency. And I think genuinely he was a man that cared about the country. So anyway, going back to Jimmy Carter, 1976, Jimmy Carter received 40,831,000 votes. Ronald Reagan in 1980, 43,903 votes. Bill Clinton in 1992 received 44,909 votes. Okay, Bill Clinton again in 96, the second time he ran. 47,401 votes. George H.W. Bush back in 88. This list jumps around a little bit. But in 88, George H.W. Bush got 48,886,000. Jumping up to 2000, George W. Bush received 50,456 votes. Al Gore that year actually received more votes than Bush, but lost with the delegates. He received 50,999,000 votes. Going back to 1984, Reagan in 84 got 54,455 votes. John Kerry, jumping back up to 2004, got 59,028,000 votes. John McCain in 2008 got 59,948 votes. 948,000 votes, excuse me. Mitt Romney in 2012 got 60,933 votes. George W. Bush in 2004, when he beat Kerry, got 62,040,000 votes. Donald Trump in 2016 got 62,984 votes. Hillary Clinton in 2016 again got more votes, but she lost the election due to delegates. She had 65,853 votes, 853,000 votes. Then you had Obama in 2012 and 2008 got 65,900,000 votes and 69,498,000 votes. Now, in 2020, Donald Trump beat his total from 2016 by 12 million votes. He had 74,223,000 votes, but Joe Biden in 2020 had 81 million votes. That is literally 12 million votes more than Barack Obama got in 2008. Do you believe it? Do you believe that actually happened? I can't believe it. I can't believe that Joe Biden got that many votes when he was literally a margin candidate who could not campaign, who could not give a speech, had literally no support. He was booed when he went places, but he got 81 million votes. I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. I don't believe it happened. All right, so let's jump ahead to something else that I want to talk about. We hinted about this earlier. I'm on my phone, so I have to get to this particular attachment that I have. Now, let's think about election night. Now, if you think back on election night, Trump versus Biden, I remember this night very well. I stayed up late. I was watching the counting. I can't remember the exact time I went to bed, but when I went to bed, I knew that Donald J. Trump had won the election. It was that much of a margin in his favor. Now, don't forget, we were in the middle of COVID, and the Democrats pushed hard to lock us down. They pushed hard to keep us home. They tried to shut down voting locations. They wanted people to mail in ballots. Now, if you saw the documentary on 2,000 Mules, they documented the mules that were going from one ballot box to another that were out in public, and they were stuffing ballots. You saw another voting location where they were unloading big boxes of ballots in the middle of the night and bringing them into the counting areas. You saw them pulling suitcases out from underneath tables and bringing those out into the voting counting area once they had shut down the voting operation in the middle of the night. The Democrats didn't feel that we need to investigate any of this. Now, if you look at the polls, or not the polls, if you look at the results as of 3 a.m. on election night, now I went to bed probably 1 o'clock, 1:30. After I went to bed, they shut down the voting. They shut it down. Or they shut down the counting. Now, if you look in Pennsylvania at 3 a.m. in the morning, Donald Trump was winning by a margin of 57% to 41% with 64% of the votes in. Now, normally, when you're at that big of a margin, with that high of a percentage of votes coming in, they put the little check mark next to Donald Trump because they know it's over. In this case, they weren't doing that. Michigan, 3 a.m. Counting was stopped. Donald Trump had 54% of the vote. Joe Biden, 44% of the vote. Trump had 1.7 million votes, Biden 1.4 million, and that was with 59% of the votes already counted. In Georgia, Trump at 3 a.m. had 53% of the votes, Joe Biden 45% of the votes, and this is with, it looks like close to 80% of the votes already in. Trump had 2.2 million votes, Biden 1.9 million. North Carolina, Trump had a little bit narrower margin here. He had 50.1% of the votes. Biden had 48.7% of the votes. However, 94% of the votes were counted. Trump had 2.7 million, Biden 2.65 million. Are we getting an idea here of what might have happened? Michigan, 3 a.m. Biden had 44% of the vote, 1.4 million votes. Donald Trump, with a 10% margin, 1.718 million votes. Wisconsin, 3 a.m. A little bit narrower margin. Biden had 46.8% of the votes, and Trump had 51.7% of the votes. So here we are, election night. Some of these states were 60% in, 70% in, as high as 94% of the votes were counted. But Trump did not get the little check mark. They did not say that Donald Trump won. They shut down the voting. Windows were covered. People were seen bringing cases into the voting areas. And in the morning, I woke up to the fact that Joe Biden came back and allegedly won the election. Now, that being said, after the election results were certified by Mike Pence, who I believe is an American traitor, Donald Trump was blamed for orchestrating the January 6th quote-unquote insurrection. I don't believe that that was all incited by Donald Trump. If you go back to the summer of 2020 and the George Floyd riots, you can look at the Nancy Pelosi's, you can look at the AOC's, you can look at the Ayanna Presley's, the Maxine Waters, who were clearly instigating the mobs to do destruction in America. The summer of 2020 was the true insurrection. January 6th was not an insurrection. January 6th, the police guards welcomed people into the White House, into the Capitol building. They opened the doors. They welcomed people in. They ushered them into the building. Nancy Pelosi had a film crew ready to film the quote-unquote insurrection. You had guys like Ray Epps that were inciting violence, who were operatives from the Democratic Party on site. None of this stuff has been investigated properly. None of it. The cheating in the voting has not been investigated properly. January 6th has not been investigated properly. And the 4 indictments against Trump, the numerous charges being filed against Trump. We have never seen a witch hunt like this in American history. Now, my point is this. I believe there was cheating. 81 million votes, my ass. It didn't happen. It did not happen, period. It didn't happen. Now, as a person that supported Trump, it bothers me that Trump was cheated out of the election. Now, taking that a step further, many people believe that Hillary Clinton was cheated out of the election. Before that, many people believe that Al Gore was cheated out of an election. There have been allegations of cheating in presidential elections going back many, many years. And my question is, if there have been so many allegations from cheating, why haven't there been investigations? Why haven't there been actual full-blown investigations to ensure that our voting system is working and there isn't widespread cheating? We are supposed to be a free country. We are supposed to have the right to vote. And if our votes don't mean anything, we are living in a facade. We are living in a facade of a country that is supposedly free when it in fact is nothing more than a fascist, communist, controlled government. What do you believe? Now, if you believe that maybe, just maybe, if you're on the left, maybe there was cheating in Trump's election. Maybe there was cheating in the Hillary Clinton election. Maybe there was cheating for Al Gore. Don't we all owe it to America to ensure that there's no more cheating? We need to eliminate mail-in ballots. Gone. We need to eliminate drop boxes. Gone. You vote in person, period. That's it. You vote in person. If you're in the military or something like that, you could possibly get a mail-in ability, but you need to prove who you are when you send that vote in. Now, as far as the in-person voting, do we use machines? A lot of people think you can cheat with the software and machines, like the Dominion machines. But I think a lot of people also feel you can cheat with paper ballots. Look at the whole hanging Chad thing that happened when in Florida with the Bush-Gore election. So how do we resolve it? I think one thing we have to do, and this doesn't resolve the either-or voting machine paper ballot problem, but I think we need to have valid government IDs for every person voting, period. You need a license to buy a dog. You need a license to get married. You need a license to buy cigarettes, to buy beer, to buy weed, whatever it may be. You need a license. But we're not required to prove that we're citizens of the country to vote in the election for president, the leader of the free world. How does that make sense? It makes no sense. So, the bottom line is, we need to figure this stuff out, and as Americans, we need to get behind this. I've told you my platform. I believe in term limits for all politicians. I believe we need to ensure the integrity of the election, and I believe without a shadow of a doubt that the Joe Biden machine, whatever that may be, including Obama, including Soros, including Klaus Schwab, including our overlords, the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati, these are all real things. You need to do your research and understand. But until we take our country back and demand it's a government for the people, by the people, nothing will change. Until we demand election integrity, that will never change. And we will continue to live in this matrix of lies, deceit, and government control. We need to wake up, people. 81 million votes for Joe Biden? Come on. Even if you're on the left and you're listening to this podcast, you can't say with a straight face that you believe that's legitimate. You can't say it. You can't. And they're going to cheat again. Nothing was solved after the last election. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I had to get on and record this. It's been bothering me. I had to get on and say my piece. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the John DeVito Show. If you happen to like my show, thank you. If you don't like it, I apologize for boring you. I'm trying my best. But if you do like it, please tell a friend. Please encourage someone to listen. And we all need to start speaking up. We all need to start making an effort to take our country back before the United States of America ceases to exist. I love all of you, and thank you for tuning in to the John DeVito Show.